The post went live at 9:14 a.m. By noon, it had crossed 300,000 views. My sister stood in a mirror, laughing, pointing at my jacket, calling it Walmart couture. Then she tilted the camera and added, "Every family has a thief. Ours just dresses like one." I didn't comment. I didn't report it. I didn't even open the app again. What she didn't know was simple. The trust fund she liked to mention at dinners didn't come from our parents. It came from me. $500,000. Held by a professional firm. Locked behind a character clause she had never bothered to read. Her 30th birthday was 5 days away. That morning, the fund manager forwarded me the video. And at that moment, the money stopped being patient. The first message came from a cousin I barely spoke to. "Is this you?" A screenshot followed. The comments were worse than the caption. People guessing my income. My education. My character. My sister liked every joke at my expense. Then she pinned the post. I was at a cafe when I saw it. Same table I'd worked from for years. Same quiet corner. Nothing about my day changed. I paid for my coffee, closed the laptop, and walked home. Online noise has a way of burning itself out if you don't feed it. The next afternoon, my phone rang. It wasn't family. It was the trust company. They don't call unless something matters. The manager didn't sound angry. He sounded careful. He asked if I'd seen the video. I said yes. He asked if I wanted to review the conduct section of the agreement. I said we should. The clause wasn't complicated. No public behavior that damaged the reputation of the benefactor. No harassment tied to financial gain. No actions that could expose the fund to legal or reputational risk. It existed to protect everyone involved, including her. I asked him to document the post, the captions, the comments, the reach. He told me it already was. The firm had a standard process. They didn't rush. They verified. 2 days passed. The post climbed higher. Brands reposted it. People stitched it. My sister leaned into it, posting follow-ups. Each one made her look sharper. Each one made the file thicker. On the third day, she called me for the first time in months. She didn't mention the video. She asked if I was coming to her birthday dinner. I said I hadn't decided. There was a pause. She told me not to be sensitive. Then she laughed and hung up. The email arrived the next morning. Formal. Neutral. The trust company had completed its review. The conduct clause had been triggered. Distribution would be suspended pending remediation. They needed a statement from her and a compliance plan. Until then, the account would remain frozen. I didn't forward the email. I didn't need to. She found out on her own. The fund manager called her directly. Firms like Clarity. Her birthday dinner happened without me. So did the cake. The photos went up late that night. Smiles, candles, champagne. The caption said, "Grateful." The comments asked questions she didn't answer. A week later, the original post disappeared. Then the follow-ups. Then her account went quiet. Family group chats filled the space instead. Confusion. Theories. Silence from her. The trust wasn't taken. It wasn't reassigned. It simply waited. Money does that well. It waits for behavior to catch up. I still shop where I always have. I still work from the same cafe. Nothing about my life needed defending. The situation resolved itself the way it was designed to. Some lessons don't arrive as arguments. They arrive as clauses. The screenshot landed in my inbox before I ever saw the post itself. My sister's face filled the frame, smiling, one hand tugging at my jacket sleeve. The caption circled it in red. Asterisk Walmart clothes. Thief relative to asterisk the view count was already climbing. I was standing in line at a grocery store when I finally opened the app. Fluorescent lights. A child crying 2 aisles over. The ordinary noise of people minding their business. I watched the video once, paid for my groceries, and walked home with the bag cutting into my palm. I didn't feel the urge to respond. That impulse passed quickly. What stayed was a quieter thought, settled and complete. I decided to let the post keep moving on its own. The backstory was simple but unnecessary at that moment. Family jokes had always leaned in one direction. I was the practical one. The quiet one. It was easier for everyone if I stayed there. By the second day, the clip had escaped her account. Reaction videos appeared. Strangers debated my worth with confidence. She added another post, then another, each one louder than the last. The attention rewarded her timing. On the third morning, an email arrived from an address I recognized but rarely saw. The subject line referenced an account number, not a name. The message was brief. A fund manager had flagged public behavior connected to a beneficiary. He asked if I was aware. I replied with a single sentence and attached the link. He acknowledged it and said the firm would review the matter according to policy. Nothing more. Institutions don't dramatize. Days passed. The post kept circulating. My sister leaned into the attention, scheduling a birthday dinner, mentioning the trust in passing during a livestream. Each word added weight to a file she hadn't read. The call came the morning before her birthday. The manager didn't ask permission. He informed me the conduct clause had been triggered. Distribution was suspended. The account would remain intact but inaccessible until compliance was addressed. I didn't attend the dinner. I didn't need to. The message reached her before dessert. Financial conversations tend to cut through noise. Her account went quiet by midnight. Photos stopped. Stories vanished. We spoke once after that. Not in anger. Not in apology. She asked what happened. I told her the fund was behaving as designed. There was nothing more to add. The money didn't disappear. It simply waited. So did I. Some situations don't require confrontation. They resolve themselves when structure meets behavior. After everything settled, life didn't shift the way people expect it to. There was no relief, no rush, no sense of victory. The days kept their usual shape. Mornings arrived. Work continued. Groceries still needed buying. The silence where the noise had been felt deliberate, not empty. The trust company handled the rest without involving me. That is what systems are built for. Procedures replaced opinions. Documents replaced arguments. Time replaced emotion. I was copied on updates I didn't respond to. Each one read the same way, neutral, careful, complete. Family gatherings became smaller. Conversations avoided certain topics. Names were mentioned less often. When they were, they carried weight. No one asked me to explain. No one accused me of anything directly. People tend to retreat when they realize a situation isn't fueled by impulse. I saw my sister once, months later. Not at a celebration. Not at a crisis. Just a brief overlap in a parking lot. She looked tired. Not embarrassed. Not angry. Just older than before. She nodded. I nodded back. Nothing else passed between us. There was nothing left to negotiate. The trust remained untouched. It didn't belong to either of us in the way people assume money belongs to someone. It existed within boundaries, responding only to conditions being met. That had always been its purpose. I hadn't created it to control her. I'd created it to protect something that required care. People sometimes ask why I didn't warn her. Why I didn't intervene sooner. The answer is simple. Warnings turn into arguments. Arguments invite performance. Silence lets behavior speak clearly, without interruption. I didn't change how I dress. I didn't adjust my habits. I didn't feel the need to correct the story that had spread. Stories burn out when they stop being useful. Attention moves on. It always does. What remained was an understanding I hadn't had before. Power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't demand recognition. It waits, structured and patient, until it's required. When it arrives, it does so quietly without explanation. The post that started everything no longer exists. The account that amplified it has been dormant for months. The trust still sits where it always has, governed by the same language it always carried. Nothing dramatic happened to end this. No scene. No confrontation. Just alignment. I didn't lose a sister that week. I lost an illusion. And in its place, something more stable took hold. Some outcomes don't feel like endings. They feel like systems returning to balance. The days after were quiet, but not empty. I kept the same routine. Work in the morning. Errands in the afternoon. Evenings without noise. Nothing needed adjustment. That was the point. The trust firm continued its process without emotion. Emails arrived. Reviews were logged. Decisions followed policy. I didn't intervene. I wasn't asked to. Structures work best when they are left alone. Family communication shifted. Messages became shorter. Invitations slowed, then stopped. No one demanded explanations. People sensed there was more beneath the surface and chose not to dig. Silence often signals boundaries better than words. I noticed how quickly attention fades when it stops being rewarded. The comments dried up. The reposts disappeared. New content replaced old outrage. The internet moved on without ceremony. It always does. When I ran into my sister months later, there was no confrontation. We shared a brief look. Recognition without emotion. She didn't ask questions. I didn't offer answers. Some realizations settle slowly and privately. The money stayed where it was. It wasn't frozen out of spite. It wasn't held back as punishment. It simply followed its terms. Agreements don't bend for embarrassment. They respond to conduct. I never corrected the narrative she created. I didn't need to. Anyone paying attention could see the shift. Loud voices went quiet. Confidence gave way to caution. Patterns changed. I continued wearing the same clothes. Shopping the same way. Living within choices that felt intentional. Appearances never required defense. They only reveal what someone values. There was no moment of satisfaction. No sense of triumph. Just clarity. I understood the difference between reacting and allowing consequences to function as designed. People assume power announces itself. That it needs witnesses. That it seeks approval. In reality, it operates best when unnoticed, doing exactly what it was built to do. The trust didn't resolve anything emotionally. It wasn't meant to. It resolved a structure problem. Once that was done, there was nothing left to manage. I didn't gain anything new. I lost a false role. That felt lighter than winning. What remained was calm. Not because I was unaffected, but because nothing was left unresolved. Some stories don't end with apologies or victories. They end when the system stops tolerating behavior.